Welcome to another episode of Up in the Air. I'm Logan Westrow.
And I'm Kasey Rigner.
Kasey, we're heading into the end of October. Fall is with us.
I know.
Pumpkins are also, it's time to go out and get them. I don't know about you. I've not personally gotten my pumpkins yet. The weather's just been either too warm and not fall-like, or it's been raining every time I try to go during the weekends.
I still need to get mine. Maybe this weekend I'll go make some jack-o'-lanterns, put them outside my apartment.
Yeah, and hopefully Ryan on the Climate Wall will have some good news for us for our weekend forecast. We'll just have to see.
Yep, we have a full episode in store this week. We have updates on Hurricane Michael, how bees were affected during last year's solar eclipse, and Saharan dust moving northwest. All that and more, but first, here's Update in the Air. Climate models that have been used until now need to be modified. The world's climate is in an even more critical state than previously thought. Folks at TU Wine explain that winters are getting shorter and plants are turning greener sooner. It was not clear about what this meant for plant growth in the summer and autumn and for the amount of CO2 used during photosynthesis. For the first time, the Department of Geodesy and Geoinformation at TU Wine was able to investigate the global patterns of this effect using satellite data. They analyzed satellite images from the past 30 years, examining the entire globe of the northern 30th parallel from southern Europe and Japan to the most northerly tundra regions. Light is strongly absorbed in areas of high vegetation, and infrared radiation is strongly reflected. With this knowledge, they were able to determine how much photosynthesis occurs and how much carbon is taken up during photosynthesis across the globe on a point-by-point basis. When spring-like weather begins earlier, it's reasonable to assume that plants will have more growth, absorb more carbon, and produce more biomass as a result. But that isn't the case. The data show that the northern hemisphere is in fact greener in the spring when temperatures are usually warm. This impact is reversed for the summer and fall, even leading to a reduction in carbon uptake as a result of the rise in temperature. The department at TU Wine suggests that there may be a range of reasons for this occurrence. Matthias Forkel of the department says, unfortunately, this changes climate forecasts for the worst. We have to assume that the consequences of global warming will be even more dramatic than previously thought.
To think that
researchers at NYU Abu Dhabi, along with other scientists, have recognized a new mechanism by which warm dust travels from the Sahara to the Arctic Circle, which has been proven to affect rising temperatures and ice melt in Greenland. These findings highlight the role that the polar jet and associated atmospheric circulation plays in the transport of mineral dust from the Sahara Desert to the Arctic across the eastern side of the North Atlantic Ocean. A strolling polar jet was discovered as responsible for both the emission and transport of dust from northwest Africa to the Arctic. The issue has been linked to an intense Saharan cyclone that formed in early April 2011. The study has found that atmospheric circulation of this nature enables the transport of dust as well as tropical air masses from the subtropics and the mid-latitudes to the Arctic, where approximately half of the warming is now attributed to increased moisture and heat fluxes to the region. The warm, moist air accompanying the dust causes a rise in surface temperatures of 10 degrees Celsius for more than 3 consecutive days upon reaching southeastern Greenland. Succeeding temperature observations detected increasing melting within the ice across the same region. The polar jet stream has been identified as the main driving force for such events, leading to the transport of large amounts of dust to high latitudes. The newly discovered poleward path is considered the most substantial in terms of dust load transport into the Arctic due to the minimal geographical distance between the origin point and the destination.
many environmentalists. Welcome back to the show. Kasey, the pattern that we had last week was pretty warm, pretty humid, pretty summer-like too. It seems like we still had to wear our short sleeves. Luckily, we had a cold front that moved through right before the weekend.
Thankfully.
And yeah, it brought a big change to our weather pattern. It's more fall-like now. Leaves are starting to change a little bit quicker. I'm pretty excited about the change.
Said it once before and I'll say it again. My hair does not agree with the humidity, so I'm glad that fall is finally here and it's here to stay.
Me too. Well, hopefully it stays that way. We're going to turn to Ryan on the climate wall, and hopefully he has some good news in store for us. Ryan?
Well, those temperatures are definitely going to
Time. It's almost end of October, so it's nice to have this change in our area. So that's all the time we have this week for our Up in the Air episode. I'm Logan Westrow.
And I'm Kasey Rigner.
And be sure to catch us next week, Up in the Air.
Welcome to this week's episode of Up in the Air. I'm Kasey Rigner.
And I'm Ryan Gold.
Ryan, I am so glad that break is finally here. We get to go home and spend time with family, take a break from classes for a little bit, and get away from campus.
Yes, I am so excited for this break. I do hope that the weather will not be nice and clear, especially
Me
for our
too.
drive, and even on Thanksgiving Day, because I want to play some football with my family.
Our fingers are crossed that the
Yep.
weather stays nice over break.
Definitely.
We have a great episode this week with stories featuring a constantly erupting volcano in Guatemala, as well as patterns of fish migration changing due to warming ocean temperatures.
All that and more, but first, here's Update in the Air.
New research has assessed the impact of global warming on thousands of tree species across the Amazon to discover the winners and losers from 30 years of climate change. The analysis found the effects of climate change are altering the rainforest composition of tree species, but not quickly enough to keep up with the changing environment. The team of scientists led by the University of Leeds in collaboration with more than 30 institutions around the world used long-term records from more than 100 plots as part of the Amazon Forest Inventory Network to track the lives of individual trees across the Amazon region. Their results found that since the 1980s, the effects of global environmental change, stronger droughts, increased temperatures, and higher levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere have slowly impacted specific tree species growth and mortality. The study found the most moisture-loving tree species are dying more frequently than other species, and those suited to drier climates were unable to replace them. The team also found that bigger trees, predominantly canopy species in the upper levels of the forest, are outcompeting smaller plants. The team's observations confirm the theory that canopy species would be climate change winners as they benefit from increased carbon dioxide. This further suggests that the higher carbon dioxide concentrations also have a direct impact on rainforest composition and forest dynamics, the way forests grow, die, and change. With its wind and precipitation patterns, the South Asian monsoon influences the lives of several billion people. Recent studies indicate that its drivers are more complex than previously assumed. Scientists have now published a reconstruction of precipitation over the eastern Indian Ocean over the past 1 million years. It points to connections with controlling processes in the southern hemisphere that have received little attention so far. But how exactly does this important climate system work, and how will it change in response to future global warming? The monsoon is driven by pressure and temperature differences between the Asian continent and the southern subtropical Indian Ocean. The variability of the monsoon over recent geological time periods is thought to be driven by changes in solar insolation in the northern hemisphere caused by the regularly changing inclination of the Earth's axis. The longer reconstruction of the monsoon history is based mainly on two climate archives: sediment cores from the Arabian Sea and stalagmites from caves in China. The new record generally shows that the precipitation of the South Asian monsoon was weaker during the peak ice ages and stronger during the interglacial warm periods like today. Researchers were only able to associate 30% of the variability of monsoon precipitation in the eastern Indian Ocean with fluctuations in the Earth's axis inclination, indicating that it only plays a small role in the fluctuations of the monsoon. Instead, the results of the scientists pointed to important connections with warming phases in the southern hemisphere and moisture transport across the equator to the north.
As the
Two connected marine ecosystems, the Eastern English Channel and Southern North Sea, experienced big and opposite changes in their fish communities over a 30-year period. Rapid warming drove smaller ocean fish to shift abruptly northward from one ecosystem to the other. This inversion in the structure of the two ecosystems also caused a big switch in the way those connected ecosystems functioned. Ecosystem function refers to the way an assembly of species move with inorganic materials as a larger whole to influence biological, geochemical, and physical processes. Changes in the structure and function of an ecosystem can alter the rate of carbon uptake from the atmosphere or the rate at which organic materials are broken down. Study results suggest that the expected increase in the frequency and severity of climate oscillations and extreme warming events could trigger shifts in the distribution and abundance of species with profound consequences for the way ecosystems around the world function. According to researchers, in the mid-1990s, a natural climate oscillation called the Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation switched from a cool to a warm phase, producing warmer sea surfaces throughout the Atlantic Ocean. Researchers realized that the majority of studies examining the impacts of such warming events on fish have focused on variations of particular species, often focusing on commercial fishery species. Study results suggest that warming events in the future could have a major and long-lasting impact on marine ecosystems and fisheries. Researchers are saying that the results of the new studies could be used to anticipate how other marine ecosystems may change under future warming. Welcome back to the show.
While we do have some activity in the Atlantic Ocean with some tropical systems, we now go to a package that I did about climate change affecting hurricanes.
Florence.
Welcome back to the show. So Ryan, this past weekend I was able to go to the game. It was cold, it was windy, wind chills were in the 20s. There was snow in the morning. The National Weather Service issued their first snow squall warning.
True, yeah.
Were you at the game?
I wasn't at the game, but I still was outside to feel those temperatures and that wind chill, and it was not pleasant at all. But
No, it wasn't.
I did like seeing some of the snowflakes. Finally, winter's coming. Sad to say goodbye to fall, but
Yeah.
well, we can appreciate winter. But first, let's go to Logan at the climate wall. Logan, do we have any more cold weather coming up?
You know, Ryan, it looks like that pattern is actually going to continue where you're going to see some cooler temperatures for the coming week. I'll have more details on that.
Precipitation should hold off. I have to drive home 10 hours to Chicago, so the last thing I need on that long car ride is snow, precip, rain, whatever it may be. So I'm glad to hear that's going to be clear.
Yeah, I'm driving home too. Not as far as Chicago, but I'm still glad to hear it's going to be clear.
Thank you so much for tuning in with us this week on this week's episode of Up in the Air. I'm Kasey Rigner.
And I'm Ryan Gold.
Have a great fall break and make sure you catch us in 2 weeks up in the air.